Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Katya and today's book talk is on Li Kotomi's Solo Dance, translated from Japanese by Arthur Reigi Morris. This is one of 4 books that I decided to focus on for Women in Translation Month this August. The author, Li Kotomi, is a Taiwanese-born fiction writer, translator and essayist. Solo Dance is an award-winning novel, published in the original Japanese in 2017, and this English edition is from 2021. Like the author, our main character in Solo Dance, Cho No-ri, grew up in Taiwan and left for Tokyo to pursue a master's degree, learn the language, and get a job. The cover tells us that No-ri lives and works in Tokyo. Now aged 27, she is haunted by a terrible attack in Taiwan that left an enduring mark on her. This book deals with mental health issues and is brilliant at highlighting the difficulties people like Cho No-ri can have in navigating a world where it isn't always easy to know who will be understanding and compassionate versus who attaches stigma and shame to mental ill health. The book focuses on No-ri's depression, trauma and obsession with death. So that is the tone of the book. This is not a light-hearted read by any means. In Japan, Cho No-ri wears a mask, appearing outwardly happy and social, while struggling and trying to keep her sexuality hidden from her colleagues. Even the lesbian group of friends she's made online don't know much about No-ri. That said, at the start, when some of the forum members decide to meet in real life, they value a degree of anonymity. Cho No-ri is wonderfully complex as a character. I liked how supportive she was with one of her friends in Japan. I understand some of the difficulties she had in Taiwan with some of her friends. She's relatable. Not always making wise choices, but relatable. Now, before I read this book, I wondered if there'd be an overlap in the experience of Cho No-ri and the daughter in Concerning My Daughter by Kim Hae-jin and translated by Jamie Chang. The daughter in that book is called Green. And there is one overlap that stands out, which is the campaigning for change and equal rights by LGBTQ+ students in the universities. So the university in Taiwan where Cho No-ri goes to, and the university in which Green works in Seoul. But other than that, there was very little overlap. This book is more detailed. I think the other book, Concerning My Daughter, is a bit stepped back because it's from the perspective of the mother, whereas Cho No-ri tells us a little bit more about the lesbian scene in Tokyo. We even get a glimpse during her university days of Taiwan's pride parades, and then when she's living in Japan, the ones in Shinjuku Nikon, where the thriving clubs are seen as an oasis in Japan's queer desert, as they say on the online forum. At the same time, Cho No-ri comes across as outgoing to both her colleagues and this group of friends that she makes, the lesbian friends from the online community. But no one truly knows her. Beyond the gay and lesbian culture that this book describes, it is also rich in Japanese and Taiwanese culture as a whole. It's filled with references to fiction from both countries, especially the works of Osamu Dazai and Chu Miaojin. At times, I found the references fascinating, having not read either of these authors. I have now added both of them to my reading list. Cho No-ri's reinvention of self in Japan is the central premise of this novel, and I like the way the author, Li Kotomi, explains why No-ri left Taiwan. And as No-ri's story unfolds, I loved the way that Li Kotomi slowly reveals the traumatic fragments of what made her make certain changes and her viewpoint. I might not always have, agreed with that, but I liked how we get her viewpoint and also understand the perspectives of those around her, including her psychiatrist in Taiwan. Now, Cho No-ri lives a lot in her head, and when she's on her own, she has these feedback loops. So she is struggling with her mental health, and the book goes into painful territory, violence, trauma, loss, and alienation. Still, the author does this really well, and she holds out the possibility of community and reconciliation in Cho's life. The issue that Cho's mental health also presents is that she doesn't always see any opportunities, and she has some unhealthy strategies she uses to try and protect herself. So I think that's been a really insightful read in that way. The ending is one that I didn't enjoy that much. I found it melodramatic and a little bit convenient, and the tone sort of shifted. So the 3/4 of the book, the pacing and everything was quite smooth, and then when we get to the last quarter, I found it all a little bit rushed, a little bit convenient and melodramatic, so I wasn't the biggest fan of the ending. I feel, however, that the ending is balanced by the often beautiful and compelling narrative in the rest of the book. And having said that, another criticism from my part is the references back to other works. Because I don't have the same reference point, I sometimes found it fascinating and sometimes I found it a little bit too much. But it is interesting. So for example, Chu Miao-jin, that author is referenced a lot in here, and sometimes that really adds to the narrative. This is an author who describes her existence as a Taiwanese lesbian woman, but we find out, of course, that she also she committed suicide, and suicide is something that Cho No-ri has on her mind pretty often. So she obviously has that sense of connection with this author, and yeah, sometimes it felt a little bit too much or referenced too often, but that's purely in my opinion. And yeah, I'm definitely going to be picking up some of the books and the authors mentioned in here. It is rated 3.68 on Goodreads. I think just under 200 people have rated it. And I think 3.68 is a fair rating for this. It's well worth a read. Do keep in mind, I don't think it's perfect, but you know, what book is perfect? I would definitely read Li Kotomi again. And that's it. Those are my thoughts on Solo Dance. Do let me know if you've read the book and whether you have a different experience of having read it, or if there are any points that I mentioned that you agree with. Is it on your reading list? Do let me know in the comments, and again, thanks so much for joining me. Take care. Bye.